Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, Part 1 and Part 2. So basically just talking about Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, which was originally released in two parts, as here's Part 2 and here's Part 1. Not the biggest fan of this cover art because it doesn't really, Batman does never has that costume in the movie. And well, he kind of does, but he more likely he wears a different suit. He Yeah, it's not really the most accurate looking. They're kind of generic looking cover art too. I mean, it could be worse, but um, anyway, this is based on Frank Miller's iconic graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns, and which was released in two parts originally, so that's kind of what this originally was, but it works well as its own film, as just one big long movie, and it also works pretty well as a two-parter. I didn't mind watching it in two parts. Um, so, and I got these thanks to a good friend of mine who sent these to me, so I gotta say thank you. Thank you so much. Batman The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 came out in 2012, like in December, or like a little bit before that, and Part 2 came out in January of like 2013. So, so it's kind of, yeah, September 2012 was when Part 1 was released, and Part 2 was released in January. And then there was a deluxe edition combining both movies that was released in October of 2013. The film is directed by Jay Olivia. Both parts are directed by Jay Olivia. It's based on The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, and it features the voice acting of Peter Weller. Yeah, Peter Weller, RoboCop himself as Bruce Wayne and Batman. And this is like a dream come true for me. I have two of my favorite things combined in one thing, in one movie. I love Batman and I love RoboCop. And to have Peter Weller play Batman in this, it was awesome. And he did a great job. He was fantastic. It was a really inspired casting choice to have Peter Weller do the voice of the older, grizzled, veteran Batman that's featured in the Dark Knight Returns storyline. Ariel Winter is also, she plays Carrie Kelly, who becomes the new Robin. I think she did a good job. I thought she was good. David Selby, I really liked as the voice of James Gordon, of Commissioner Gordon. Wade Williams played Two-Face. Two-Face had a little bit part in part one, and Wade Williams did a solid job, but he just didn't really. There wasn't really a lot for him to do, but he did a good job of what he was asked to do. None of the voice acting in this was particularly terrible. There wasn't anything that was awful or I didn't like it. Michael Emerson is the Joker. I would have preferred to have had like Mark Hamill, but I'm okay with Michael Emerson. He says himself that he was inspired by I think it was yeah, Paul Lynde, the comedian Paul Lynde, for his performance in this, and I can totally see it. Like a twisted, demented Paul Lynde. Um, Maria Canals Barrera was the voice of she played Ellen Yindel, and who would eventually replace Commissioner Gordon as the new commissioner of Gotham. Gotham's police system. The PD police department. And I thought she did a good job too. Like I said, everyone did a good job. Paget Brewster is Lana Lang. Um, Michael McKean did a good job as Dr. Bartholomew Wolper, who was the guy who's basically trying to act like Batman is the one that's causing these psychosis among these criminals, and he's trying to argue that Batman is worse than the criminals themselves because he is the one that's causing them to be so psychotic. You even had Bruce Timm, who of course would go on to work on Batman the Animated Series. He ended up playing the voice of Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's dad, which I thought was a nice little nod, a nice little touch. And Frank Welker played the voice of Mayor Stevenson. And those are all the voices that were in part one. Oh, you also have Michael Jackson as Alfred Pennyworth. Not, of course, it's not the Michael Jackson. It's a different Michael Jackson. But this Michael Jackson did a good job doing the voice of Alfred, and Gary Anthony Williams was the voice of the mutant leader. And Gary Anthony Williams is the same guy who was playing Bebop in the new Ninja Turtles movie. And I actually thought Gary Anthony Williams did a great job playing the voice of the mutant leader. He's actually very intimidating. And in part two, you have Mark Valley, who plays Superman, who does the voice of Superman. I liked him. I thought he did a great job. Um, I really like Tim Daly, but because I'm really familiar with Tim Daly because of his work in Superman the Animated Series. But I still thought he was Mark Valley that was good as well. And Robin Atkin Downes was the voice of Oliver Queen, and Robin Atkin Downes, I think he did the voice of. Did he recently do the voice of? Yeah, he was the voice of Doomsday in Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. He was in the better movie here as the voice of Oliver Queen, Green Arrow. You had McNeil who played Selena Kyle. She was okay. Everyone was fine. Conan O'Brien was David Endocrine, who was a host of this kind of late night talk show, which is definitely inspired by David Letterman. And Andy Richter also was there as one of the guys who was, one of the guys who was like what he was with Conan O'Brien on Conan's show. So he was like the McMahon to Johnny Carson. And so, yeah, that's kind of basically it for the voice cast, and they all did a great job. It's written by Bob Goodman. I think he did an excellent job adapting The Dark Knight Returns to this animated form. And it features music by Christopher Drake. Such a fucking amazing score. I love this score by Christopher Drake. I think it's really great. It fits the film really well. It's memorable. It feels like a John Carpenter sort of style. Like if John Carpenter and Alan Howarth scored a Batman movie. That's kind of the vibe that I got from this score. And that's good. I mean, it had this great electronic 80s sort of feel to it, and it had a good amount of atmosphere to the film when it needed to, as well as some mood, and as well as it made some scenes even more powerful because of how well this film was scored. The editing is also really top notch by Christopher D. Lozinski, and I thought the directing by Jay Oliva was really good too. This is a guy who started out directing, episodes of like RoboCop Alpha Commando, and he would go on and direct this, and he's directed a few other, um, DC direct-to-video animated movies, and he's also a storyboard artist. He's worked on storyboards for Ant-Man and for Deadpool. So he's done a lot of stuff, with that in that regard. I thought he did just a spectacular job bringing the panels to life in this movie. I mean, the visuals in this animated film, I mean, yeah, it's probably a pretty low budget, but it looks fantastic. It literally is The Dark Knight Returns brought to life in just the best way imaginable. He brought back and it's not as rough in terms of the artwork. In The Dark Knight Returns, I love it, but the artwork is definitely rougher around the edges. And here you still have a little bit of that, but it's not to the point where it looks ugly. It still has its own style that is really dynamic and really stands out, and that's kind of one of the main things that made The Dark Knight Returns work so well. And also, the whole storyline, the whole concept of a retired Batman who's in his 70s and then comes out of retirement and plays the Batman, plays the role of the Batman one last time. And so yeah, so that's basically the cast and crew of the film. Now I'm going to run down with the plots of part one and part two. I'm going to talk about the things about part one and part two that I liked. both of these parts were really fast paced and just I was captivated, enthralled. I loved this. I absolutely adored these movies. Um, I definitely want to get my hands on the deluxe edition, which has more features and has like the both parts put together, because this was one of my favorite animated movies I think I've ever seen. It's a bright, definitely my favorite Batman animated movie, and I like Mask of Phantasm a lot, and I like Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, but I just there were so many epic moments in this that were so awesome. And if you ask me, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns kicks the fucking shit out of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. It beats its ass on every facet, on every level. And so part one, starts out after the death of Jason Todd, and you have Bruce Wayne. He was forced to retire from his Batman persona. So then, 10 years later, Gotham City. This is where the film takes place. Is 10 years later after these events. Gotham City is overrun with crime and terrorized by a gang known as the Mutants. And I like the look of the mutants. They look like mutants. They got these like it's definitely an 80s comic, you can tell. And even the animated movie, it adapts this sort of 80s style. It definitely does feel like it's an 80s comic, but it's brought back to life in like the 2000s with 2000s animation with still with an 80s slant though, which I'm fine with because I love the 80s. It's my favorite decade of film. So you have the mutants. I like the look of them. They got the mohawks. They got the visor sunglasses. There's some really great shots in the film where you just have the mutants when they're in the dark and you just see their red visors, which in some essence, in a lot of ways, this movie and the comic kind of does remind me of RoboCop, and you could see sort of that kind of stuff that was brought by Frank Miller himself into RoboCop 2, and I get a kind of RoboCop sort of vibe because there's like the newscasts in this, but they don't feel out of place like they did in Batman versus Superman for me personally. They felt like they were blended into the film and blended into the story and worked really well. And yeah, RoboCop kind of did that too. And then I also get, Batman 1989 vibe definitely from this movie, these series of movies. And that's intentional because Batman 89 was definitely inspired by The Dark Knight Returns. Tim Burton is even said that, and you can definitely see that in Batman 89. In fact, it's really an interesting sort of thing to watch this and then watch Batman 89 again, because then you really have this sort of you can see the parallels like even more than you would have before if you just decide to watch Batman 89 without having watched this beforehand. Um, and speaking of Batman 89, there's a really fun bit in part two, or if you're watching the deluxe edition near the end of the movie, where while Batman is testing out his robot suit, he lifts up the Batmobile from Batman 1989. So he lifts up the classic Batmobile, and I thought that was really cool. I caught that. I was like, that's nice. That's a really nice nod to Batman 89, which was heavily inspired by The Dark Knight Returns. So you have the mutants have overrun Gotham City. Bruce Wayne is 55-year-old. He's 55 years old. He's older now, and he maintains a friendship with Commissioner James Gordon, who's retiring. And one of the few differences that this has with the comic is that he he's eating chewing nicotine tablets instead of smoking cigars like in the comic because the censors and so forth, the stupid MPAA. Um, and even that, I mean, these were both rated PG-13, and they definitely did feel like there was a really hard edge to them. There was a bit of blood in certain sequences too. It didn't hold back, and I really appreciated that. And so you have going back to the sort of stuff with the cigars, so he doesn't smoke cigars, and even the film mentions it, which is pretty clever, where Gordon says, my wife made me give up the cigars. So Closer to James Gordon, still friends with Bruce. It was different to see in the beginning of part one. You see like Bruce with like a mustache, so it's like a different look you're definitely not used to. And it even opens up with him. He's a race car driver, driving what kind of looks like a Batmobile, and he crashes. And I was like, at first, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I like that. But it definitely got a lot better. Like, I was just kind of like, that's kind of weird. I don't remember that. But, I hadn't read The Dark Knight Returns in a long time. So, but that's just a bit scene. So they are still maintaining their friendship. The Joker is catatonic in Arkham Asylum since Wayne's retirement. Uh, Arkham inmate and former district attorney Harvey Dent. He undergoes some plastic surgery to repair his, disfigured face. He gets declared sane, but then he quickly goes into hiding following his release. Dent's disappearance, news stories of the crime epidemic throughout the city, and the memory of his parents' deaths, which just keeps haunting him, drive Wayne to become Batman once more. He combats serious crimes, even rescuing 13-year-old Carrie Kelly, but now struggles with the physical limitations of age, which is nice to see. It was nice to see Batman a little bit more vulnerable than you're used to. And there's some awesome, really well done action sequences in this part and in part two, where Batman is just kicking ass and taking names. And like I said, you have that 80s sort of John Carpenter, Alan Howard score in the background, which just takes it to a whole nother level. And I love it. I love the stuff where he's fighting these thugs. And I love the one where the cop is, saying like, he broke his arm. And he was like, oh, don't worry, this is the whole thing where the cop is, I'm looking for the quote here because it is here on, I'm just checking, I'm just trying to find the quote. I know it's here. This is the rookie cop who's trying to arrest Batman, and he's like, "You're under arrest, mister. You just crippled that man." And Batman's like, "He's young. He'll walk again." And then Batman, and then the guy's like, and then Batman is talking to the bad guys, "But you'll stay scared, won't you, punk?" It was perfect. It was a perfect casting choice with Peter Weller because it was awesome. It was so awesome to hear RoboCop's voice come out of Batman's lips. It was just a very memorable experience for me. And so you have the whole sort of thing where Dent's escaped. You have the stuff with Carrie Kelly, and I like that with Carrie Kelly. She's basically she's tired of how boring her life is, and she wants some adventure. Batman returns, and she decides she wants to get a little bit of that action, and basically creates her own Robin costume and tries to fight crime on her own, which is not really the best idea. But ultimately, she does earn the respect of Batman and does become the next Robin. And I like the fact that, okay, it's a female Robin, that's something different than what we're used to. And I thought the voice acting was pretty good too by Ariel Winter. So public reaction to Batman's return is divided. There's some cops, like veteran cops, who are talking to, while Batman has returned. You know, a rookie cop is like, "What the hell is going on?" And then, the veteran cop is like saying, you know, "Yeah, we're in for a show, kid. So you better get ready to watch." You know, um, and even Batman, I like how the film shows that Batman he's got a psychosis going on where he's trying to give it up, but then while this stuff is going on, Dent's escaped, all this crime is overrunning Gotham, and he can't sleep, and he's just having these thoughts that keep happening in his head, or it's like Batman talking to Bruce, like they're two separate, psyches, sides of one man. And I like this quote where Batman is basically telling Bruce, "You try to hold me back, but you're weak. You know it in your soul. You're nothing but a hollow shell, a rusty trap. The time has come." And then time does come, and he becomes Batman again. And people are divided. Some people are like, this is cool, this is good. There's one thing I don't like about these is about this the animation in this, and this is Frank Miller's problem anyway. I don't know why he likes to portray certain women in like really unflattering ways. But I don't like the way that Lana Lang is portrayed in this. She's like become like a fat old cow, and I don't really appreciate. I don't really. I would not buy Lana Lang aging that badly. And the same thing goes for Selena Kyle, which you'll see her in a later part. I don't buy that either. Like Selena Kyle, like looks horrible. Like Catwoman looks horrible, and I just don't. I don't think I really don't like the way that he portrays some of these iconic female characters in their old age. Yes, they age, but I doubt that they look that horrible. I mean, Selena, she keeps in shape, she works out. I mean, how is she able to do all this stuff she's able to do unless she actually does keep up with her own, with physical exercise? Um, I just don't buy it. It's just I don't like the way that he portrays those characters. But you have this sort of the psychiatrist, voiced by Michael McKean, is arguing with Lana Lang on the news about Lana Lang is supporting Batman's return, the other guy isn't, and people are divided. Um, Dent's psychologist is the big one, Balfarmy Wolper. He blames Batman for creating his own rogues gallery. Dent resurfaces, threatening to blow up a building unless he is paid a ransom. And Dent has bandages over his entire face, which kind of reminds me of Darkman or Hush, if you're familiar with that character, uh, which is another Batman villain. And so Batman defeats Dent's henchmen. He learns that the bombs will explode even if the ransom is paid. And he realizes that Dent intends to kill himself. Batman disables one bomb, and the other detonates harmlessly. He defeats Dent, who reveals that although his face was repaired, he still thinks of himself as Two-Face. I like the editing in this sequence where it shows you see Dent's talking about, you'll never be able to fix me, I'm still ugly, look at me, look at me, and you see like his whole face is like all like ugly looking, and looks like, looks like a meat pizza, and but it's just how Dent sees himself. We see how Dent sees himself for a brief moment, and then we see that his face is normal, and I like that moment. And so he defeats Dent. Um, then Kelly dresses up as Robin. She looks for Batman, who attacks a gathering of mutants with a tank-like Batmobile, which is an awesome sequence. Shoots them with rubber bullets, kicking ass. He incapacitates most of them. The mutant leader challenges Batman to a duel. He accepts to prove himself that he can win. Batman needs to know. Like even Alfred is like, he's in his prime. He'll kill you. And Batman's like, I need to know. And so we get in a nice little fight, and but the mutant leader, he's too strong. He's younger, and he almost kills Batman, beats the shit out of him. But Kelly ends up distracting the mutant leader long enough for Batman to subdue him, and then the leader and the many gang members are arrested. But injured, like really injured, Batman returns to the Batcave with Kelly because I think he got his arm broken or his arm dislocated by the mutant leader, and Carrie takes him to the Batcave, and then he allows her to become his protege, despite a protest from his butler, Alfred. Batman has Kelly disguise herself as a mutant, and she lures the gang to a sewer outlet of the West River. At the Gotham City Police Department, the mutant leader murders the mayor during negotiations, and Commissioner Gordon deliberately releases the leader, providing an escape from the building, which leads to the sewer outlet, which is all part of Batman's plan. All the mutants are gonna line up, and he wants to embarrass them. He wants to. His plan is that he's going to embarrass the mutant leader in front of all of his followers. So then they will split apart and they won't really be able to follow the guy anymore, and he loses all his power. And why would a group of people want to follow somebody if they got humiliated in front of their followers? So it's actually a pretty good plan on Batman's part. So you have, and there's a lot at stake too because I think it was Dent or one of the other criminals. Yeah, there actually was this military guy who provided all of these weapons to these mutants, so they're about ready to go to war. and it'd be very dangerous, for really bad for Gotham. So Batman takes a risk and decides, okay, this is what he's going to do. So before the amassed mutants, Batman fights the leader in a mud pit. Really, the mutant leader is Bite Man, because he's got the sharp teeth and the beady red eyes, and he even bites Batman. So they get in a fight, which is an awesome fight. I like the way it's choreographed. It's brutal. You can feel every punch. It's got a lot of weight behind it, and the mud slows down the leader, removing his physical advantage, and Batman overpowers him. And Batman has like this awesome line of dialogue, which is so badass, where the mutant leader picks up Batman out of the mud, and he's like, "You finished, old man." And the Batman headbutts the mutant leader in his broken nose, and he gets him on the ground. And he's like, "You don't get it, son. This isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table. And I am the surgeon." Like, yeah, it was such a crowd pleasing moment. It was just badass, and he just starts taking him apart piece by piece, breaking his arm, taking him out, and just absolutely destroying him in front of all of his followers, in front of all of the mutants. And seeing their leaders defeat, the mutants then divide into smaller gangs. One becomes the Sons of Batman, a vigilante group. And then Batman's victory becomes public, and the city's inhabitants are inspired to stand up against crime. And Gordon retires after meeting his anti-Batman successor, Ellen Yindel. And Arkham televised reports about Batman bring the Joker out of his catatonic state. And that is the end of part one. And then you have part two, which basically deals with the Joker. He's come out of his catatonic state. Uh, he basically lies about having any sort of remorse for his past, and he convinces Wolper to take him on a talk show, the David Endocrine show, with the voice of Conan O Brien, who plays the voice of Endocrine, on a talk show to tell his story. He makes plans for his escape with an old henchman, who kind of reminds me of like the Toy Man, which I think was a villain that Batman ends. I think Batman might have fought once, and I think Superman also fought too, and who supplies him with the mind controlling lipstick. Meanwhile, Superman, who's never really called Superman by name in this, just call him Clark, he works as a government operative in exchange for being allowed to covertly help people. So basically he's a government shill. And he's asked by the president, who he does sound like Ronald Reagan, which is the point, to end Batman's vigilante activities. Framing these events is a growing hostility between the United States and the Soviet Union over the possession of the island of Corto Maltese, which was referenced in Batman 1989, which is something I didn't really put those two together until I saw this, and then I was like, oh yeah, that Dark Knight Returns. There was more of a reference to Dark Knight Returns in Batman '89 by Tim Burton with the Corto Maltese stuff, where Vicky Vale was taking photographs. As Batman's continuing presence humiliates the national authorities, Yindel becomes commissioner and orders Batman's arrest, and Superman warns Batman that the government will not tolerate him much longer. And the film kind of opens up with an action sequence which you have this crazy chick who looks like Brigitte Nielsen with like swastikas on her tits, and she's shooting with a gun. She's got a machine gun, and she's going up against. And I like the fights, I like the sequence, but I don't like the fact that Batman is dressed up like an old hag. Like, why did he have to dress up like an old hag? Why was that necessary? I'd like the sequence more if he was just dressed up like Batman fighting this Brigitte Nielsen chick, this Nazi Nielsen. But that's just a little nitpick, but it did kind of bug me a little bit. And I know it's probably from the book, but that's one change I wouldn't mind because I just don't like it. I understand why he does that because he's trying to keep a low profile because of the stuff with Yindel, and she wants to take him in. Then the Joker makes a talk show appearance in David Endocrine's show as Batman fights with the GCPD on the studio roof. While they fight, Joker kills Wolper with a broken coffee cup and gasses everyone in the studio to death and escapes. It's a pretty horrifying sequence. It's really well shot. Definitely, you know, you can get the whole sort of thing with Batman 89 sort of vibe in this sequence too, with the stuff, the sequences in the in Batman 89 where Joker gasses a bunch of people and makes them laugh and smile themselves to death. Um, and there's just a lot of sort of the terrifying images of people scratching on the doors to try to get out, but they can't, and then they eventually succumb to Joker's uh, lethal laughing gas. And Joker escapes, and then he finds Selina Kyle, who looks worse for wear, uses one of her escorts and his lipstick to take control of the congressional representative, who calls for a nuclear strike on the Soviets before falling to his death. Batman's investigation leads him to Selina, whom he finds bound and dressed up like Wonder Woman, which I don't know why. It's just unnecessary. I don't know why that. It's just okay. Kelly notices cotton candy on the floor. Batman deduces the Joker is at the fairgrounds. There, Kelly accidentally kills Joker's henchman while Batman pursues a Joker. And it's like a really brutal scene, too. Like, the henchman guy has these, like, little dolls that move that are, like, shooting gas or bombs. And one of them is sitting on top of this roller coaster. And so Carrie Kelly, the new Robin, has to try to stop the bomb, before it explodes. And she manages to do that. She gets a fight with a henchman, and she ends up kicking him into the gears of the roller coaster, and he gets chewed up, and you see like blood spray and everything. And so she accidentally kills him, and then Batman goes after the Joker, who just with no remorse just starts gunning down people with a gun, like in the Tunnel of Love, just because Joker doesn't fucking care, give a shit. And Batman then corners a wounded and partially blinded Joker because he threw a batarang in his eye. And this is Batman's like not fucking around, like this is it, he's done. I've had enough of this shit. Basically he's like, I'm getting too old for this shit. I got time for this. And even the Joker's like, like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And then Batman corners the wounded and partially blinded Joker, and then Batman admits he feels responsible for every murder that Joker has committed, and he intends to stop him permanently because he's like, I'm not fucking around anymore. And then ensuing fight, Joker stabs Batman repeatedly. Batman breaks Joker's neck in front of witnesses. Like he breaks it a little bit, but Joker finishes the job himself, which I don't know. I know it's probably how the comic did it, but I don't know how you can like break your own neck. I don't know how you can really do that even if it's like dislocated. I don't know how you can go like and then break it. I don't know if your neck twisting your own neck I don't know if there's enough force to do that. I almost just wish Batman would just snap. It just would have just finished the job himself. I know because this Batman doesn't fuck around anyway. Like he's not old, he's too old for this shit. He doesn't have time for that crap. And that's the whole. It was a great moment too, where they confront each other, and Batman's just like, "No more, all the people I've murdered." And he uppercuts, Joker by letting you live. And Joker's like, "I never kept count. I did. I know, and I love you for it. It's finally here, isn't it? The moment we both dreamed about. Oh, don't tell me you're gonna fall asleep before we finish. You haven't gotten old. Yeah, you have gotten old, haven't you?" And then Batman punches Joker off of him and throws him against the wall, choking him. And he's like, not quite how I imagined it. We can still end on a high note. And then Joker's just stabbing Batman multiple times. And then Batman just twists his neck enough to paralyze him, but not kill. And then Joker's like, you're in trouble now. Go ahead. Say this has never happened to you before. Batman's like, shut up. Make me. Come on. Finish me. Finish me. Doesn't matter. I win. I made you lose control. And I'll kill you for it. See you in hell. And he twists his own neck. So that was actually pretty cool. I like that sequence. It's a pretty exciting sequence. It's brutal. Joker's just like randomly killing people right and left. Um, Content that he made Batman lose control and rebranded as a murderer, the Joker kills himself. The Gotham police arrive, and Batman, bleeding profusely, fights his way to Kelly and escapes. Pretty suspenseful sequence because I really didn't know if he was going to be able to make it out. And after Superman deflects a Soviet nuclear missile, which is going to hit Gotham City, actually, this is a different nuclear missile, and he's hit with the blast. Actually, yeah, actually it is. It's gonna hit Gotham, and he's hit with the blast and badly injured. That's where you see the whole iconic shot where he looks like a zombie, and much. It's definitely handled better in this than it is in Batman vs Superman because there's actual context here. It's not some stupid shit like just shoot a nuke at him because why not? That's how we're gonna kill Doomsday. Because why the hell would you think that would work? So he's hit with the blast and badly injured. The detonation creates an EMP that wipes out all electrical equipment in the United States and Gotham and causes a nuclear winter. As the city descends into chaos, Batman, Kelly, and Gordon rally the sons of Batman and the citizens of Gotham to restore order, which that was a pretty cool sequence. And Yendo accepts that Batman has become too powerful to take down. And while the rest of the powerless U.S. is overrun with crime, Gotham becomes the safest city in America, embarrassing the president's administration and prompting them to send Superman to finally stop Batman. And Batman and Superman agree to meet in Crime Alley. So why they fight in this, unlike in Batman vs Superman, it just makes more sense to me. It's just like this sort of fight. There's a better buildup, like 50 years of Bruce and Clark knowing each other, and you have this. It definitely is a confrontation of different ideologies. Versus in Batman vs Superman, it really isn't. They both do the same kind of stuff. They're almost the exact same character. Here, there is that interesting dynamic where they're different, where they're not the same. And there's also, before I talk about the Batman vs Superman fight, like we were saying earlier, I really like this stuff where Batman goes to the mutants, goes to the Sons of Batman, and basically is telling, maintains order. And certain lines like this one I'm going to talk about Batman has totally reminded me of RoboCop. It just brought, I know, I mean, when Batman says, "I am the law," and it's RoboCop, Peter Weller saying it, it's awesome, but definitely does remind me of Murphy. So Batman's talking to the Sons of Batman, and he's like, "Tonight, I'm going to maintain order in Gotham City. You're going to help me, but not with these. These are loud and clumsy. These are the weapons of cowards." Snaps a rifle in half. "Our weapons are precise and quiet. In time, I will teach them to you. But for tonight, you will rely on your brains and your fists. Tonight, we are the law. Tonight, I am the law." It's like, oh, there's so many moments just gave me chills because Peter Weller's performance is just his voice acting is just phenomenal. It's so good. So then it sets up the finale. Batman puts on the exosuit, lifts up the '89 Batmobile. He's supported by Kelly and former superhero Oliver Queen, Green Arrow, whom you figure out through some comment through some dialogue in the film that Superman ended up taking him in, like throwing him in jail because he wouldn't stop being Green Arrow, and so Superman took him in. So Batman fights Superman. He uses various tactics to make the fight even. The fight is so much better in this than in Batman vs Superman. It's not it's not lame. It's not forgettable. It's not and maybe throw Superman through a wall or hit him with a sink. None of that shit. It's so much better in this. Like Batman's using his intelligence, using his smarts. He doesn't use a minigun, which is stupid. Why would he ever use a minigun? He uses the sound sort of stuff to disorientate Superman a little bit. And Superman's even using a lot of his other powers too. He's not just you know, using his heat vision every now and then. Like he uses heat vision. I really like this scene where Batman ends up taking these like two like cement blocks or something that I think they're like parts of stuff that you might use to like smash buildings with, and he's got them in two hands and he's like hitting Superman with them. I was really cool, and and there's a really cool stuff too. Carrie's in the Batmobile. The tank, which really is a bat tank. It's the bat tank shooting things. Oliver Queen's jumping around, taking guards out, trying to you know get to where Batman is so he can hit Superman with an arrow made with synthetic kryptonite. with the gas, kryptonite gas in it. Superman's gaining the advantage, but then that's when Queen hits him with the arrow, severely weakening Superman, and then Batman defeats Superman, and then he claims that he intentionally made the kryptonite weak to defeat Superman without killing him. And then you have this just awesome quote. And I know some people have said, why we want to see this in Batman versus Superman. And I'm like, no, I'm glad it wasn't in the movie because there's no context. It doesn't have nearly as much impact as it does in this film, in this particular sequence, and in the comic, The Dark Knight Returns, because there's years of buildup behind it. This is one of the last words. These are some of the last words that Batman has to Superman in this. And Superman in this isn't an asshole either. He's just he's corrupted a little bit by the United States government. He's taking orders from them. He should be doing his own thing, but he's deciding not to. Um, but mainly so he can keep on being a hero, because I guess there's been this sort of thing where vigilante justice is being enforced more than it was before. And Superman wants to still be a hero, so in order to do that, he has to help the government, fight their battles, so to speak. And then Batman gets him beat, and then this is just a great moment. I didn't have to go easy on you. A different binding agent, a stronger mix. I want you to remember that. I wanted to remind you to stay out of my way. In all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember the one man who beat you. You're like, yeah. There's just so many great moments in these parts, in part one and in part two, and just Weller just. I mean, I love Kevin Conroy, and I'm just glad Weller did this because it just makes it stand out a little bit, and in a good way. Conroy would have done a great job too with the role, but I'm so glad Weller got it because it's nice to see someone else, and he worked so perfectly with this version of Batman. And plus, it's RoboCop voicing Batman. It was just, I mean, I'm just getting giddy, smiling about it. It was just awesome, match made in heaven. And so Batman beats Superman, but then he apparently dies of a heart attack, like because all the suit causes all the strain of his heart, and Wayne Manor self-destructs. Alfred dies of a stroke. It's really sad. Like I really did. I couldn't help. I kind of shed a tear. I was like, oh. And in the aftermath, the world learns that Bruce is Batman, and all of his secrets are destroyed with the manor, and his finances disappear. As Superman leaves Wayne's funeral, he gives Kelly a knowing wink after hearing a faint heartbeat coming from Bruce's coffin, because, which I like that. He's not dead, and so it's not too depressing. Alfred dying was enough. We didn't need Batman to be dead too, Bruce to be dead as well. But actually, I could deal with it if this last gasp was to, get the point across to Superman that, what I'm doing is right, and I think I'm doing the right thing. What you're doing isn't isn't any better than what I'm doing. And so in the underground caves, Bruce is revealed to have faked his death, and he makes preparations to continue his mission more discreetly, allied with Kelly, Queen, and his followers. So technically, Batman Beyond, if you think about it, kind of what it is. Uh, which actually, Batman Beyond is a great thing to watch after watching this because you deal with old Bruce and a new Batman and so on. Yeah, so that's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. Part one, part two, the deluxe edition, all in one movie, all in one review. It's a long review because it's a long movie. If you just watch it all in one part, and I'm basically reviewing part one and part two, because it's a little bit easier to do that than it is to just try to remember everything that happens all at once. But yeah, I've, I don't know what else to say about the Batman: The Dark Knight Returns except it's epic. It's awesome. It's an amazing, I think honestly a masterpiece of animation. It's got great voice acting by pretty much everyone involved. The action is fast. It's exciting. I mean, it's not super fast, but it's definitely fluid, and it definitely gets your blood pumping. It's adrenaline inducing. It's awesome. It packs a real punch. Um, And if you haven't seen this yet, part one or part two or the deluxe edition, you need to check it out. I highly recommend it. I don't know what else to say about this except rate out of 5 stars. I mean, I'm just gonna rate them as, as one movie. And as one movie, I'm giving it 5. I really don't find anything wrong with it except for little things. Like, I didn't like the way that Selena, Kyle, and Lana Lang looked, and I didn't really like the whole sort of angle, the whole concept of Bruce Wayne, Batman dressing up as a hag and getting in a fight with, the Nazi chick. But that's really it. I mean, I can deal with the dressing up like a hag because it makes sense in the context of the story. And with Lana Lang and Selena Kyle, that's just a cosmetic problem. Other than that, I don't find anything else wrong. I mean, the Joker was fine. The performances by the rest of the voice cast were great. I love Mark Hamill, but like once again, I like the other guy too, and I thought, hey, it was a different performance. It was different, just like it was different with having Peter Weller. So it wasn't, as much as I love Kevin Conroy, it was nice to see something a different voice for Batman, and I thought Michael Emerson did a good job as the Joker, so I thought it was nice to see that as well. So, or hear it, so to speak. Um, this isn't a case of, oh, it's just different for the sake of being different. And, I thought it was actually some differences that are actually good. And they were actually in the film's benefit. And I'm pretty sure Conroy and Hamill would have done an amazing job, like they're going to do with The Killing Joke. But, these other, Emerson and Weller did a great job too. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I really love these. I love this. It was so much fun to watch. It really made me feel so much better after seeing Somber Man versus Sad Man, or Sad Man versus Somber Man, Yawn of Justice, or Yawn of Just Shit. It was really nice to watch a Batman and Superman movie, or, at least part two had like Batman and Superman in it. But it was nice to see a Batman and Superman related film that wasn't boring, that wasn't full of annoying characters, it wasn't full of boring, scene after scene that just did not interest me. It wasn't just one action sequence that was good. There was a bunch of action sequences in these animated movies and the animated film, if you just watch it as one movie, that were really cool, were really fun to watch, and really got my blood racing. So anyway, I don't know what else to say. It's been a long review, but I wanted to give it to this movie or these series of movies because I think it deserves it. Um, and anyway, thank you for watching my review of Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, and I will see you guys later. See ya.